Hey there, welcome back to the BOM Process course. We're still in Module 3, the 7 phases, and here in Lesson 5, we're going to talk about the recruiter phase. This is the phase you enter after you've built out your basic conversion machine. So this is phase 3 in the process, and this is where you're trying to bring traffic and build your audience. You're recruiting an audience. So that's the name, and that's where the name comes from. So let's talk about what you're doing during phase 3, the recruiter. So the goal is to create your traffic machine. It's to basically get traffic coming into your conversion machine so that all the goodness can happen. So that's what you're focused on at this point. So in phase 2, the builder phase, you built your hub, your kind of home base where you can turn traffic into leads and hopefully buyers. Once you've got that in place, then you move to phase 3, which is about then sending traffic so that the process can kind of work its magic. So that's the goal. And the focus here is on content, social, and leads. It's about content marketing, social media marketing, and generating leads for your business. The discipline in this phase, it's two of them. It's consistency and patience. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people, when they get here, they get anxious because they're not seeing the traffic come right away. And the reason why is that this is a long-term play. Your content marketing will take time. Your social media marketing will take time. Even if you're doing paid ads, that will take time. And so this is a time when you have to consistently do the work and be patient and don't give up. Don't give up on creating content after a couple of months because it's not working. I mean, you should look at the data and make sure that you're actually doing the right kind of thing. But the reality is that this is something that will take some time. And you have to have the discipline to wait it out and expect that to be part of what's happening. So in this phase, you're learning marketing fundamentals, again, continue your content marketing and paid traffic. Those are the things you're focused on because, again, largely remember that prior to this, you've already built the machines to convert stuff. So now it's about finding ways to get the traffic in so that you can kind of prime the machine and get the machine going. So that's what you're doing here in the recruiter phase. Let's talk about milestones. So the first thing you need to do is be creating long form content. And by long form content, I mean a blog, a podcast, or kind of video shows. You have to be creating that on a regular basis. So if you didn't do this during the builder phase, first of all, it's setting up and planning it. It's about doing this and creating a plan and getting it all set up so that it's happening on a regular basis in your business. It's about creating this content every week. Now, people push back on this. And look, if you want to do it less than weekly, okay. But if you truly want this to work and to really get you traction, you need to be creating content on a regular basis and as frequently as possible. So creating content weekly is a good flow to that so that people don't forget it. It becomes part of their regular. Let me back up. For new people, you're creating a bunch of new content on a regular basis to get their attention. For your existing audience, there becomes this regular rhythm that they expect, and it's part of their weekly routine. So that's your long form content. And again, if you'll remember back to Module 1, we talked about how your long form content is the bedrock. It's what most of your traffic plan should be built around. So this is an important part of getting your recruiter phase going, is this piece. The next part is social media. And I suggest to people that at the earlier phase of your business, you should be posting regularly on 2 social channels. And how you pick those is going to depend on where your audience is and the type of messaging you're creating. So this could be for some people, Facebook and LinkedIn. It could be Facebook and Instagram. Maybe it's Instagram and Twitter. You have to figure out what works and where your audience is, but you should be posting to 2 places on a regular basis. Now, part of the reason you want to post 2 places is over time, you'll start to get a feel for which one works best. And once you see which one's working best, then you'll know, hey, I should really kind of double down or put more effort there, and then maybe try to see if you can make the other channel work better by pivoting or tweaking. But having 2 different channels is a good option. And then in addition to posting, you should be engaging regularly on 1 social channel. So this means interacting with people, and this means beyond simply responding to comments on your post, which you should be doing that on both platforms where you're posting. But this is about going out and engaging with people on their posts, in groups, in communities, on hashtags. Again, how you do this will depend on which social platform you choose. For me, this was Facebook. Facebook was where I really felt most comfortable, so I was engaging in other people's Facebook groups. I engage with other people's posts, other page posts, etc., to really kind of build up an engagement machine, which then attracts people into my world. So that's this. These are kind of the first sets of milestones here, which is about content and social media. The next piece, though, is that you should have a guest outreach plan in place. Now, this doesn't mean that you're necessarily getting guest spots, but if you've done the work, if back in the planning phase you identified your Dream 100, maybe you can start to come up with a plan for outreach to potentially appear on some of those channels. And what I'll tell you is when you're starting out, oftentimes it's easiest to get onto smaller platforms. So don't shoot for someone who has millions of followers if you're just starting out. Start with someone who is a peer, who's kind of already collected an audience of your audience, but it's not huge. Start there and you can always build up. But the idea here is to get that plan in place. Next up is paid advertising. I believe that at this phase, but largely throughout your business building efforts, you should be running ads regularly. Now, there will be times when you turn those ads off for one reason or another, but as a general matter, you should be running ads all the time, not just when you're promoting stuff, not just when you're trying to sell stuff. So during the phase here of the recruiter phase, you should be running list building ads. So these are ads sent to your list building efforts, sent to dedicated landing pages to get people to opt in and to join your email list. Now, optionally, you might also run awareness ads to your content. Generally speaking, if you're running a podcast, this is not as good or as effective because people don't, go from a social media post to your website where there's a landing page for your podcast to listen to it. So that's not the best way to do it. But if you have a blog or YouTube or some kind of content, it can be an effective way to go about it. So that's getting your paid advertising run. So up to this point, everything is kind of a task. Now, the final milestone here is to build your email list to 1,000 subscribers. Again, the 1,000 subscribers, the 1,000 leads, it's an important metric. This is the first milestone that's not simply about completing a task. And it is a very important milestone to complete in your business. So getting to 1,000 leads and 1,000 legitimate leads is an important part of what you're trying to do at this phase. So let's talk about why 1,000 leads matter. First of all, it's a sign that you've proven your message. You've found a message that resonates with your audience and will get them to sign up for your email list. So that in and of itself is proof of concept of what you're saying. So that's an important part of it, and that's part of why it matters. It's also about market research. Once you have 1,000 leads, you'll have enough people to survey, to ask questions as you're developing a scaled product. If you want to launch an online course, for example, having 1,000 people on your list will mean that during the process of developing that, you can reach out to them and get feedback so that you know what to create, what they need, how you can help them. So having those leads is an important part of that as well. And then the final thing is what I call the 1% rule. And this is the general rule that you will convert around 1% of your audience when you kind of do a launch or a promotion. So if you have 1,000 people, this means you'll generally make 10 sales. And by the way, this 1% rule is a pretty standard thing that people know. Now, people who come in for a launch are a bit different, but your overall list, you should expect that you will convert 1%. Now, when you get really good, that might get to 2 or 3%. But early on, you're likely to be hitting 1%. So if you think about it, you don't want to launch a scaled program when you have 100 people on your list because that means you're probably going to make one sale. So it's not a scaled program. So that's why the last reason why this 1,000 leads really does matter. So a point I want you to get here is that your first lead magnet probably won't get you to 1,000 leads. What you're going to do is test multiple options to find the lead magnet and messaging that works. You have to kind of figure out what's going to work here, what lead magnet works, what messaging works. And once you get that dialed in, you'll be in good shape. So this is an iterative process, and it kind of works something like this. You create a plan or have an idea, and then you have a hypothesis from that, and then you're going to run a test, and then you're going to look at the data and learn. So as you're running for trying to build your list, you might believe my audience wants a checklist. They want a checklist that will make their life simple. And so that's a hypothesis or a plan or idea. And then you're going to run a test. So you're going to say, okay, let's create one. And if I create a checklist, here's what will happen. And then you test it, learn, and move on. And so basically what you're doing here is going through this process repeatedly to get yourself to 1,000 leads. And the process of testing will help you refine your marketing and communications strategies so that you're in a position to reach your people and be effective along the way. Now, here's a truth problem. You should not create a scaled program until you've built your list to at least 1,000 leads. That's why we have not talked about creating a course. We have not talked about creating a membership. We have not talked about a group coaching program up to this point. Up to this point, you're creating a plan, you've built the basic components, and you're recruiting and building your list. And that's what you should be focused on up to this point in your journey. So to sum up, the recruiter phase is where you'll begin what will become an ongoing series of tests to find out what works in your business. Now, you should expect this phase to take a significant period of time, partly because it's not just a series of tasks. What I'll tell you is you should be able to knock out all of the tasks in phase 3, the recruiter phase, pretty quickly until you get to the 1,000 leads. Now, the 1,000 leads will depend upon how much money do you have for advertising, how much are you able to invest. Those things will affect things, but ultimately, that's where most entrepreneurs, if you're conscientious and if you're really kind of doing the work, everything up to that phase, you should be able to do it and knock it out. But then when you get there, expect that it's going to take some time to really refine your messaging and get your list built so that you know you are in good shape and that you're resonating with your audience. So once you've gotten all the tasks up to this point built or finished, and you have 1,000 leads, then you're ready to move to the next phase. And in the next lesson, we'll talk about that. You're going to learn more about the scientist phase. So I'll see you there.